Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it.
Yo, hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back after a bit of a break, which is nice. It's quite refreshing. Always great to take a break from something like Magic. We bought a place, we moved in, I had the new setup, and life is good. Life is very good. Here we have Naya Mav. This is a list by Achillies27, who has been on a bit of a tear with the deck. Connery Knox, as you might know them as well, has been playing this list for a little bit. They played at the Chimera Gaming 1K in Kitchener, made it to the finals, and they also got some 5-0s at the list, which is nice to see. So I'm really keen to run it unedited, as it should be, through a league. A few cards I haven't played with for a little while. Scryb Ranger, one of them. Obviously fantastic in Maverick at ways of getting extra activations of Mother Runes, saving Dryad Arbor as a blocker, being able to get mana out of your forests and your mana dorks is really nice. Yeah, Mawloc as well. 2 of as a Green Sun's target as removal 5 and 6 on top of Green Sun Zenith, which I think is really strong. I just played a few games and I played against Mono Red Stompy, and Mawloc was a great answer for a Bombardiers. It was a great answer for a Magus. And then I played against Blue Black with a small splash of green, I think. And post board they had Harbinger of the Seas, which typically without swords is a little bit tough, but with 1 green and a Green Suns, Mawloc is a nice way to get rid of that. So really enjoying the Mawloc life. Renegade Rallier as well is here, so just need to make sure we always think about our Green Suns targets and when we're fetching, etc., knowing that Renegade Rallier is in the deck. And then we also have Talon Gates. Talon Gates and Lush as kind of your 2 flex-ish spots in the deck, but I would say that both of those are now Maverick staples, but they're obviously different to the rest of the deck. So knowing that Talons is always there for the Knight activation is nice. Main deck, we obviously have the full 4 Mums, 3 Thalias, 1 Teeg, and 1 Collector Ouphe, as just a nice, simple way to have some game against the unfair decks. Knight of Autumn making an appearance as well, which is really nice to see. I haven't seen Knight of Autumn in a list for a long time, so I'm really happy to see Achilles trying it out, obviously doing well with it. Maybe it's the return of Show and Tell, where you just want the ETP trigger. Really happy to see. Hey Panda, hope you're doing well. The sideboard, you can kind of see what Achilles is trying to hate out with the full 4 set of Pyroblast, 2 Minskamboo for the more grindy matchups. I also don't mind Minskamboo against Prison because it's a really good threat to have that you can cast off a single forest. Aven Mindcensor, just for when you might want to play against some things like Cradle Control, the mirror type-esque green-white decks that are going to search. It's nice to have the ability to interact with that. It's always nice to also have just 1 choke in the 75. Who doesn't love a choke? We have 2 Force of Vigors, which is cool. I think Force of Vigor, I would say, in my opinion, or at least the decks that I love to play that play green, it's just a staple of the sideboard, and typically at least 2. It's just that card you really want to see in your opening hand against the decks where it's really relevant, so 2 is fantastic. Dismember, again, probably a little bit of a bit of respect here, a sign of respect for the sort of Magus of Moon and Harbinger of the Seas. And then 4 Leylines, because, you know, we're not a big fan of graveyard decks, and we just want to make sure that we can get a Leyline in play turn 0, and then try to get something else in play that will also disrupt. So we'll see how that goes. Your Nemesis deck? Well, hey, if Maverick's your Nemesis deck, I think that's kind of cool. So, yes, I went to a tournament on the weekend. We had the Mana Clash, which was a pretty fantastic event in Melbourne. The Mana Clash is now in its 2nd year. It is... 1 second. It is typically known as, I guess now, the Worlds of Highlander. And Highlander is a singleton event, Australian 7-point Highlander, which I've played on the channel before with Vince, Pleasant Kenobi, and a few others. And yeah, it's a great weekend. The main event is on the Saturday. There's a warm-up event on the Friday, and there's a team event on the Sunday. So big shout out to Socrates and Beckett, who I was in a team with. But yeah, it was pretty good. We had a pretty good run. I played lands. I really went into the tournament not wanting to take it out, but more so just wanting to be comfortable with the deck that I play. And Abzan is a great way to do that. And then just making sure that I was keeping a standard of play that I was happy with. That's what I really wanted to achieve. I really wanted to achieve no rushing, thinking about my plays before I made them, which sounds simple, but in the heat of the moment, sometimes you draw that card and you just go straight for it instead of thinking about your other options. And yeah, I was pretty happy. I went 3-1-1 on Friday, 6-2 on Saturday for an 18th spot out of 160. And then the team event, we went 4-2-1. My record being 3-2-2, I believe. The draws because my team won already, which is really nice. But yeah, an incredible event, and I'll definitely be there next year. 8 cast, yeah, 8 cast would be pretty tough for this deck. Especially even small things like if you are on patchwork, having Dryad Arbor as a block with Scryb Ranger just to buy some time, small things like that always add up. But obviously the ability to turn one, Noble into turn 2, Collector Ouphe. One thing with 8 cast is that I love to always try to have Karakas as my answer to Emery, which allows me to have those 4 swords for other threats. So if I'm able to find the Karakas when you have the Emery, then that's when I feel like it's a much more favored matchup than it typically is. All right, let's do this. Let's get into a league. We're playing a Legacy League with Achilles, play points. Nice. A big shout out to MTG Mate, a sponsor of the channel. Big shout out to Palms Off Gaming, sponsor of the channel. Daybreak Games, Card Hoarder. Still love them. They gave me my big break, so I do really appreciate Card Hoarder. And hey, let's cook. Let us cook. Okay, interesting hands. So we're probably looking for either a bird or a fetch land with a Once Upon a Time. A little bit awkward that if we want to Mawloc, we would probably go once into fetch land, Lush turn 1, fetch land into Mawloc turn 2, or just hold up the fetch land. I don't mind this hand. I usually try to think of a 7. What's the worst card? And say it's the Cradle. Then as a 6, would I keep this? I'll be pretty happy with this as a 6. So, oh, that's actually, thank you very much. I will quickly fix that. I believe it's because the source of my display has switched over. There we go. Beautiful. Hopefully you can all see. Right, we're going to keep this. I'm going to see how this goes. I think it has enough of a plan. Early interaction. The mana's okay. Renegade Rallier could get back the Mawloc if that's a play. And I think just because of the once being potentially a mana dork, that it's worth doing here and not just Lush pass and then untap in once. Well, we found the fetch land for the Mawloc, so let's go with Lush. That's pretty interesting if they are a Wasteland deck to have this. I don't mind it. It's also just a nice play next turn if they don't play a creature out and we want to hold the Mawloc. We could just go fetch land into Noble Pass, which then allows me to set up Knight. The fetch land staying around also means the Renegade Rallier could potentially get it back. But with the name Let's Cook, I hope they're not just like Lotus Petal into, you know, Ritual or something like that. But if they are, we'll take the challenge. Island Ponder. Doesn't give too much away. Instinctively, I'm just thinking show and tell. But it could be anything from a different combo deck to Jeskai control, UI control, Stoneblade. A little bit too early to tell. But the island start's interesting. Maybe thinking that we are a Wasteland deck. Okay. Play a land to play around days, and then we will play out this Noble. And then we'll pass. Show and tell running lots of basics. Yeah. I've definitely seen a good mix of show and tell decks who are running Ancient Tomb for things like Stock Up, Barrow-Goyf if they're splashing black. But it also makes sense just to run out a bunch of basics and maybe one or two Ancient Tombs when you want to go a bit quicker than your opponents. The plan against show and tell with Karakas off Knight is a little worse if they get a Traxxas into play, just because of the value. But I also don't want to be thinking too much about show and tell yet, because we aren't fully convinced at show and tell. So I'm happy just to play what's in front of me. And there we go. A little bit different. And now very happy to keep the Noble as well, because that extra mana is really nice. Means we can play the Mawloc as potentially a 3/3 around days still. Even if they get rid of the Noble here, we still have land Mawloc as a 2/2, take out the Delver. And then if they want to deal with the Mawloc, we can hopefully have it in the bin for a Rallier down the line. But now I'm definitely less tempted to play the Knight as just a 3/3. I'd love to get up to a 4/4, so another fetch land would be great. All right. So they are going to go after our mana. We did see a few fetches at the bottom of our library from the once. So I think here I'm actually happy just to pass. Sorry, to fetch now. Get that Taiga. Put the fetches back into the deck. Talon Gates. Not a bad draw either. We will respect days here. The difference between a 2/2 and a 3/3 isn't too big here. But obviously being able to deal with the Delver is. And look, if they force it, then the Rallier can just get it back. And as a 2/2, still kills a flip Delver. So a lot of upside by having the Renegade Rallier here. It's just a bit of, you know, if they want to force it, we still have play. That's why I really like cards like Renegade Rallier, allowing you to now use your graveyard as a resource, whereas potentially without it, you don't have access to that sort of avenue is really nice. Opponent could just be reading this, or they're really weighing up, is this worth swordsing? Or is this worth forcing, I should say. I don't think it is. I think they, yeah, let it happen. You have a lot of other threats in the deck. Obviously annoying, but you're not even too sure if this Delver is going to be your one true threat as well. It's still pretty early on in the match. The question is, what do I do next turn if I don't draw a fetch land? And the Rallier obviously doesn't have anything online. So if I draw a land, it's probably either Wasteland that I'm happy with. Okay. I'd love to see a Bolt. I don't think just yet the Mawloc is at all a threat. So I feel like a Bolt or another Unholy Heat on this, when it's already traded away with a card, is pretty good for us. It also means second main we can play a Mum knowing about one less burn spell. But we also want to apply some pressure. So there is a case of make them have it. If I play out Mum here, I can then play the Cradle and still play the Knight around days, which is quite nice. And I think the upside of the Knight untapping is probably game winning at this stage, especially with Wasteland in the deck, maybe the Mum online. I'm pretty happy with this board state to see if we can play the knight and untap with it. Seek the Beast. Okay. Wasteland and Dragon's Rage Channeler. So a little bit of interaction and a threat. I feel like if they have a force, this is probably forcible. Ooh, days. Maybe double days. Which I don't mind either. For a matchup where it does get quite resource heavy. They could be trying to fuel the bin for a Murktide. But obviously pretty aggressive going back 2 lands. But as well, maybe that's their answer to tonight. Maybe otherwise they don't really have an out, so the double days is needed. I think for them to kind of get back into this game, the best line is red source into fetch red source into DRC into remove the mum trigger. If we get to untap with the mum, I think we're in a really good spot. Okay. Is it a wasteland? Okay. That will turn on the DRC. I wonder if they go for Cradle here or cut me off red. Go for Cradle. Okay. Yes, I actually haven't seen a whiteboarded version. Very interesting. I think an Endurance is just the best draw here. Canopy. Okay. I don't mind here trying to attack with the Mawloc and then getting it back with Rallier. It makes them like have a force. The Mawloc isn't doing too much either, and I do want to build to the board. Okay. So they will block. It'll have 2 damage on it. We'll play the land to play around days. Play the Rallier. They double dazed before, so they didn't have a force. Nice, okay. Mawloc, trigger. And now we can also give pro red to save the Mawloc. Is that worth it? How much do we want the Mawloc? If they have a Murktide, obviously the Mawloc's not doing a whole lot. If they have another DRC as a 3/3, the Mawloc's not doing a whole lot. But if they don't, then it is a considerable difference between having 5 damage attacking each turn instead of just 3. So I think I actually will, at this stage, try to protect. But obviously not great to kind of sorcery speed tap a mum against a deck with Lightning Bolt and Unholy Heat and maybe some other removal, but I feel like at least if their turn is going to be land Murktide, we need to have enough to crack back with to have a respectable clock. Okay. Okay. Nice. Another mum's pretty cool. Another mum game 1 makes it quite hard for them to interact with. I'm also just going to hold the Talons here. Especially if it can fade out a blocker for a turn, that could just be the difference. The second mum also does something quite strong here, and that it puts lethal over 2 turns in play. But obviously here we'll see a Murktide. Yeah, Sava. So we attacked with the Mawloc. They blocked with their 3/3 DRC, and then we got it back with the Renegade Rallier. But obviously looks a little bit weird if you didn't see that part. Okay. So it's a 5/5. Wasteland not the worst. We do get to take them off the volcanic. The question is, do we want to Talons now, attack for 6, and then make them have to have, say, another blocker? But even then it's, okay, so let's just quickly do some maths. So if we Talons this out, we attack for 6, put them to 6. Upkeep, this comes back. They untap with 2 mana. They still have the questing druid. They have 4 cards in hand. If they don't keep the Murktide back, we could potentially go pro. But if the blocker is, if they play 2 blockers and they're different colors, then they can just block, you know, obviously still. I think here I'm happy to take them off the Volk and then pro the Renegade Rallier blue, hold back the other mum, get in for 3. Okay. Happy to see the brainstorm because it means there's not 2 threats coming down like a Delver and DRC. I wonder what land they play. They found a fetch land. Also, just a note, phasing is a little bit different to other types of effects, like say Ephemerate, because phasing, the creature doesn't actually leave play. So if I phase out the Renegade Rally or the Mawloc, I don't get an extra ETB. It kind of just doesn't exist. Not attacking here is also tough because I can just do the same thing, put them down to 6. Okay. Pro Blue. Combat. Play another mum. The fetch here as well puts him to 5, which is currently the Mawloc and the Renegade Rallier. We're at 19, so I'm not too sure what our opponent could have here. I think it would have had to have started with Bolt End Step on, say, mum, to at least make me tap it. Because if they tap out here for Questing Druid, the Talon Gates gets to take out one of the blockers, and then we just give pro the other color. Even a big Murktide here isn't too bad either. Okay. I don't think it's worth holding both back, because if you're holding both back to make me protect twice to then say bolt, I have a third one as well. So I think you have to attack with one. It is a tricky spot. I am in Australia. Foothills is cool. I'll play the land because then we have Talon gates at instant speed. Let's go here. Pro blue. Let's go here. Pro blue. Let's go to combat. I mean, just the patience as well, I think, is quite good because it means I don't even know about Talon gates. Nice. Hey, Ben, welcome. All right, we love the Pyroblasts, we love the choke. Dismember's an interesting one. I would say Dismember's okay, but I would probably try to see what, you know, is there something that is actually worse? This isn't a Gaddock Teeg matchup. This isn't a Collector Ouphe matchup. That's pretty easy. I do love the mums. I still like the Thalias on the draw. Scryb Ranger, of course, is nice, both from pro blue, but also just making sure my mana hits. Questing Beast a little bit too heavy on mana, unfortunately. Night of Autumn as well. It is a nice catch-all for things like Grafdigger's Cage or some sort of artifact graveyard hate, but I don't think it's worth it unless I really see them go hard on that side. I think here I'm happy to drop down on a Knight as well. It's not really something that I want in multiples of my opening. And it's probably here between Green Suns and an extra Knight, or potentially even a Thalia. Thalia just a little bit tougher when they do have, obviously, DRCs, which make 3/3s and the Murktides, but because I am bringing in a few non-creature, it could just be one Thalia, just to trim. The nice thing about Thalia is that it obviously interacts with Renegade Rallier. It's one less mana than Knight, but I do also want, you know, a few good ways to win the game, more than just an endurance, and Knight's a pretty good clock, so I think we'll just change like this. Mindcensor being a blocker in the air is kind of cool, but a little bit less since they've moved away from... Well, I guess they've now got a lot bigger in terms of Murktide and 3/3 DRCs, so... I think the blasts are great, obviously. Means that the swords can be used for the smaller creatures, the blasts for the Murktides, and potentially anything like a force if I really care about it, or a stock up if they play it, a bounce spell. On the draw, I'd love to see, say, 3 lands, 4 spells, and we see 3 lands, 4 spells. So this is pretty perfect. Depending on what they play first, we can use the information to figure out what we want with the once, but it's most likely going to be duel. I don't think playing around Wasteland at all is great. I think I'll lead with the mum as well. I don't want to have the Dismembers dazed. The cat's really cool. The cat has been in a lot of the winning lists, which is great to see. Okay. I think at this spot, I have everything that I like. So I could run the once into a daze, and that means that daze is no longer an answer to the mum, and they would have to have daze and a removal spell. And I think at this stage I'm really looking for more spell-based removal anyway, so okay. I think you're actually like the Thalia, and in that case we're just going to go for a basic. The basic planes does turn off Mawloc, so it is a decision early on that will cut off my lines if I do draw into Mawloc. But that's really it. And to be fair, I'd like to cast Mawloc on turn 3 most likely, so I think I'm happy here just to build my mana out in a pretty safe way. But yeah, the Scythe Cub Cat, Scythe Cat, really good. It seems like a great way to pressure your opponent, make them have to worry about the cat, which itself is just a beater, just a vanilla beater pretty much, which means there's less interaction or removal for your actual threats or disruption, which is really cool. Saito-san, very well now that you're here. Very well, thank you, my friend. We're up a game, which is nice, against Blue-Red Delver. And we're currently on turn 2 of game 2. I saw someone asking in the Magic TCG subreddit today about hidden gibbons, and I thought of you, Saito-san. I believe they were asking if a hidden gibbons is targeted by an enchantment removal spell and triggers into the 4/4 ape, does it still get destroyed? No, it doesn't, which is kind of cool. They've been a force. They know about the Thalia. What this deck doesn't have, and I think it's just part of Achilles' mana-based building, which I will definitely say is a cut above mine, there is no plateau in the deck. So we actually only have access to one Taiga, which against Delver is probably where you're going to see it the most. So we're not just going to play out the Taiga unless we draw a red spell. I don't mind just trying to jam Thalia here. Yeah, so if we look at Achilles lists, this version, one Taiga, and that's it. What I might do if I was going to change this list at all is probably just change the Lush to a commercial district. But I think otherwise, I think just having the green as well, sort of alongside it, is really nice. I would feel a little bit naked against Delver, but they're doing well with the list. So the nice thing here is that if we really want to get rid of the DRC, we have Wasteland on the open mana, and then we have Dismember for 2 mana and 4 life. Delver. Okay. Trop. Okay. So here, I will take them off the ability to force. I believe most of their lists as well only run the one green source. And then we will need to pay 2 and 4. And then at this stage, I don't think we're in a position to be attacking. I think every damage adds up. So I just need to hope that maybe this Delver fades once. Brainstorm in response. It's really good on this board, just to make sure they're getting this pressure through. It does mean that if they don't find a land, this knight comes down, which then might change things, because with the fetch land, we're pretty much at 10, which then allows us to play the knight, and then we go to 7 with the Delver hit. We go to 4 with the Delver hit. We then have Talons online, most likely. So we'll see how this plays out. Endurance would be a fantastic draw. Endurance is probably the best draw here because it turns off 2 threats. It turns off the Delver and it turns off a Murktide. Blast is also pretty good. I think at this spot, I'm pretty happy to play the Knight just to get it down. And then if they want a Murktide next turn, we have the blast for it. So Knight can't be countered. We can attack with the Thalia. Then we pass it back. Best draw is probably just another 1 mana removal spell. If they miss a land drop though, maybe Bolt is in the mix. Maybe Wasteland can stall them. But they've got a pretty juicy graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, here's the Merc. The worst draw for us is definitely Talon Gates. We really want to have that in the deck for the Knight to find. Do they have a land? They don't. Okay. Another land isn't great. So here we're just going to hit the Murktide. Attack for 2. And then we do have that Talon Gates. Which our opponent doesn't know about. They did not see it game 1. All right. If we draw nothing, we have to go for Canopy and try to draw out of that. Oh, they could take us off the Taiga here. And this is that exact spot where potentially it turns off Pyroblast as an out. They can allow us to untap. Very interesting seeing that the Taiga is also fodder for the Knight. We can't win by attacking even with a fetch land. So here... Talon does filter. That's very true. Very nice. Yeah, that's a great observation. I didn't even think of that. Get the Canopy. Use this to draw. Ooh. Is that enough? With one floating to play around days. Oh, it's phased out. It's phased out. Ah, ha, ha. Ha, ha. Hosted by my own petard. We're just going to run this back. Have a quick think. Yeah. My only thought is the Thalia on the, like the extra Thalia on the play is kind of cool. Go down on a Knight. I don't mind that. Playing low is quite nice. Tricked. My opponent is playing a trick deck. Damn. But hey, we pretty much have 8 Swords of Plowshares with Mawlocs and Dismember, so we should, you know, this game see some. Even a Green Suns for Scryb Ranger would have been kind of cool. Maybe buy some time. Endurance, obviously a house. but just gotta draw the right half of the deck. Once Thalia. I think here again 3 lands, 4 spells would be quite nice, especially if it's, say, swords, mana acceleration, interaction like Thalia or endurance, and then maybe protection like Mum or Scryb. That's probably the best type of hand. Wasteland, double fetch. Yeah, Wasteland, double fetch, Noble Thalia, Mum or Scryb, endurance or Mawloc. Trying to get too tricky. Nice, Junie. That's a very nice hand. I think just with red, I would like a fetch so that Pyro's online, but this is pretty close. This is one of those hands where it's like a 1-lander, but the once is there. And it's like, it's pretty nice. Like there's a lot of early stuff, but it really relies on the once. Which is really tough because typically I'm not a big fan of keep 1-landers against Delver. And there are a lot of misses. That typically it's these kind of hands that can really go bad. Which, like, I would like to take the risk, but at the same time, I'm not a big fan of it. So we are going to mull. And you get hit hard. But there are some good 5s out there, so... I think this might have to be it. And I think we kind of have to just keep the sort of hard-hitting cards, where it's turn 1 Mum. If they say Ponder, that's pretty good. We get to Wasteland back. But I think if I can choke, then there's a game. Oh, just a pass. Okay. Interesting. Okay. We'll play the Wasteland and then pass. And then we're just going to slam the choke, because if the choke doesn't resolve, we still have Wasteland, which is quite nice. And look, if the choke gets forced, it also puts them down 2 cards, which is nice on a mulligan. Interesting. At least we might be able to get value out of the Taiga before they get rid of it. I think a fetch land would be pretty good. Fetch land into Lush Portico just to control the top is pretty nice. I don't think I have the luxury of playing this choke with the Pyroblast up either. I think the Pyroblast has to go after a threat, because there's definitely a world where they play a few creatures before the choke comes down, and then we just don't have answers to the creatures. They didn't have a turn play last turn. Very interesting. Okay. I think I would rather play around Wasteland again than play out the Taiga to hold up the blast. But things do change. If they don't play a threat next turn and we draw a land, I'd be pretty happy to play land pass, untap, choke, Pyroblast up. Wow, still no threat. I mean, we're very happy with this. Ooh, endurance. Okay. I'm pretty happy to probably just upkeep endurance them. Or now, just in case. So it's exile the top 2 cards of your library until your next turn. You may play those cards, which means if they find a daze off the top, they can do it. So I think in that case, we will just endurance right now. Could also be, like I say, a force. But if this baits a daze, I'd be not too unhappy. Endurance is just so strong here because it keeps a decent threat off the board. Endurance coming down is huge because it turns off Murktide. It keeps all of their creatures at bay. We have protection with Mum as well. Maybe their plan now is play the Questing Druid and make it really big. But even then, that takes time. And that means it's a green source that they're playing for turn and not a Wasteland, which is great for us. All right, Druid down. Interesting. I actually don't mind just playing the Mawloc here. Do I want to play into days or not? If they had days, surely they'll go after the endurance. The reason to not days is that they realized their plan was just going to be Questing Druid. But even then it's tricky. Six cards in hand. Oh. Price of Progress. Interesting. I think I'm happy to trade. Like, even if they cast a spell. Yeah. Wow, they're also 6 minutes down. I didn't realize that. Not a trade with Mum, correct. But I don't think I would be open to that trade. I think here as well, I'm pretty happy to attack with the endurance. Them being at 14 and us being at 20. Interesting. We'll protect for a red. Aggressive. They really want to get this this Mum off the table. They can also Murktide here, which is pretty nuts. Okay. 2 cards left. They can't Murktide now. A Braid. Okay. One card left. See, this is the exact spot where Choke just isn't as great. Okay. What does Green Suns really do here? Not a whole lot for 2. I don't mind the Choke. They have 1 card and it is Days. Okay. Hey ahoy, welcome to the channel. Thanks for the follow. Hope you're doing well. That's pretty good. Yeah. And like kudos to my opponent. They read their hand and said, "Hey, let's go for Questing Druid and let's Questing Druid our opponent." Take us off red. We take this. Try to buy a turn. This at least means potentially we can block with the Dryad Arbor, hold back the Endurance for the DRC. And then just take 1 more draw step into Swords to Plowshares. Interesting. Could try to Green Suns for a bird. And then I think this turn I'm blocking. It'll be interesting to see how they attack. Block here. And then I will take them off green. I don't think the land is good enough for me because even a Knight of the Reliquary would be fodder. It has to be swords. It has to be swords at one point. We put up a fight, which I'm happy for. Okay. Okay. Look, I would have liked it in the previous 11 turns or the previous game. But I assume here the Ponder probably finds either Bolt or a second source of damage through another threat. I will fetch. Nice, cool games. A lot of different lines, which is nice. But yeah, I guess obviously hindsight would have been interesting to see how the opening hand went. But I'm definitely happy to against Delver. One landers just don't cut it. It doesn't matter if there's a once, or if you have say 2 mana dorks. Once they see you miss a land drop, they will go after your mana very hard. But yeah, cool games. Cool to see Blue-Red Delver as well, or I should say Rug, and not Grixis. I know there's been a lot of talk of Grixis lately, so to see someone running Rug, and also winning through questing to it as well, is pretty cool. It's always good to show people that that card can be a real threat. And at times as big or if not bigger than a Murktide. And still 2 mana. Why aren't people talking about Dryad? About banning Questing Druid? Best of luck, Neville. Opponent potentially away from their computer. Hey Ramar, welcome. Obviously not a great hand. Even if this was a fetch land, I think it's just too creature heavy and 3-drop plus heavy. On the draw in the blind, I don't mind it. We'll keep this, and I think we'll bottom the second Hierarch because at least we have turn 1 Hierarch, turn 2 Thalia. Okay. We are getting a Savannah, and we are casting a Noble Hierarch. Fun fact: when I started playing Magic, I played mono green in Standard. This was Strangleroot Geist, Arbor Elf, I believe, Wolfear Silverheart. There was another wolf that was 3 mana and had flash. I saw Noble Hierarchs in the cabinet for $8, and I thought, why are people paying $8 for this? Now I know. Tamiyo is always a tricky one. I think I care about Tamiyo just enough. And like I do have a double spell line. With the Exalted, maybe I don't. But I do want a double spell, so I think it's actually going to be once, hopefully, into land. Okay. Taiga's pretty interesting. Taiga turns on Mawloc, that's it. I would actually like to hide red in this matchup for what it's worth, and then just show red post board. They might not even think about blasts. I think mana here is the go. I think the Exalted should hopefully add up in a way that we don't have to worry about the Tamiyo too much. Okay. Definitely interesting. I do want to use all my mana. So I don't think it's Thalia unless I'm also swordsing, say, Bowmaster. Which we are going to have to get rid of it at one stage, so... I think Thalia next turn might just be a little bit too late to have a real impact, so... we can try. But yeah, Tamiyo definitely tough. I was thinking of cards like Barrogoyf potentially. Psychic Frog was back in my mind, but of course, thankfully don't have to worry about that. Okay. The land is pretty great. We get to swords first. And then I think upkeep, I'm just going to fetch... I think now I do get the Taiga, just because potentially Mawloc off the top gets rid of the Orc to attack into the Tamiyo. And they have 3 cards. Consider. Interesting. Doomsday. Yeah, there's Oracle. Okay. That's a little scary. At least Blast lines up well a little bit. It's pretty cute. So Tamiyo flips Tamiyo. And there's the Mawloc. So like we even kind of had it. play around days. They get to draw a few cards. Take out this. Attack Tamiyo. Shouldn't they combo off? I'd like to see them combo off. That's kind of cool. Like you play like a mid-range deck that plays Tamiyo, and then when you're ready to combo off, you just tick down Tamiyo, draw your deck. So I probably don't want Knight of Autumn. I don't want Collector Ouphe, I don't think. Probably don't want Gaddock Teeg either. Questing Beast is interesting, it's just like a beater, but that's also a tricky one. Jace. Unearth? Edge of Autumn. Ah, of course, the Jace. Okay. I like the blasts. I like the choke. I'm probably not a big fan on the Ouphe. It only really hits petals, which I think if they're at that stage, then it's gonna be tricky either way. Probably just a knight. I'm not too sure how to remove this. Beast? Not now. LED. Yeah. Come on now. Ramar, do you know how to remove this? I want to see... There's a card behind here, I swear. Maybe just in case. Aven's pretty interesting as well, but they do have Bowmaster, but... There we go, thank you. We'll try it. We'll try it. I think it's a good time for testing. It might just be a mana dork on the play. Okay. Get to keep, potentially hold up Pyroblast turn 1. We have Karakas for Tamiyo if needed. take the Taiga, play the Taiga and pass. Pretty happy to go after the sea. Brainstorm's fine. I don't want them to be able to daze. Next turn, it's most likely Karakas. Just a pedal. Well, now I think we have to try to Ouphe. Okay. Thankfully, again, we have the Karakas for this. And I think if they daze it, we're happy to pay with the Karakas because they can't flip the Tamiyo anyway with just one. Yeah, nice. Definitely felt like a boa constrictor there. And I think that's exactly what you need to do against combo decks. Didn't really see anything that changes things. Dismember's interesting, but Barragove can get big pretty quick, especially with artifacts in the deck, that I'm pretty happy just to run this back. Okay. I don't mind this. Pretty interactive. Especially against this sort of start. We get to hold the once as well for now. The nice thing about waiting on the once is that we can use it to potentially find a green source, or if we find a green source, use it to find a different threat, maybe a different piece of interaction, maybe another Wasteland. All right. We didn't find a green source, but we did find a Wasteland. Come on, fetch land. Nice. Go for Taiga into Noble. There's part of me as well that doesn't want to endurance them because I don't want them to have those lands back as fetch land targets. Okay. I don't mind Wooded Foothills here as a way to hold up swords, but also the Lush Portico. Maybe a Pyroblast? Thalia, I don't mind either. I also don't mind just holding up endurance. Because Could try to Swords the Tamio right now. They've used one Brainstorm. Okay. Tough. Okay. Happy to play out the Dryad. I think we're just holding up the Talons here. And then maybe even Endurance us to get back one sword in the Wastelands. I'm not sure if they're a Murktide deck. Green Sun's here doesn't do a whole lot. Questing Beast is out. All graveyards. Instant sorcery, creature plant, yeah. Very interesting. Do I care? Like, do they have any lands left? 1, 2. Undercity sewers, 3. They probably still have a 4th underground sea. I don't think there's a world where endurancing them comes back at me too much. And I can take out sorcery. But then it's a 3/4 with Death Touch, so it's even worse. Subtlety. Okay. Bottom. Choke would be kind of cool, but obviously not where we want to be. I think we're just getting a big knight. If it resolves. No. Tough. Definitely a matchup that I feel like Barrow-Goyf is a tough one when we don't have something like Grist in the deck, obviously on black. But yeah, a lot of threats you want to answer early on as well. Mawloc probably not in its best position either, especially with Tamio being an X3 early on. You can probably get rid of a few Bowmasters here and there, but yeah, probably a matchup that black has a better time against. But yeah, cool to see like a Doomsday mid-range style deck. But yeah, it's cool to see an MTG Goldfish, the different types of Mav that we're seeing out there. Bring this up, Legacy. Sadly not in the top 16, but that is okay. Oh, is it even? Surely. What have they done? Oh. Ah, damn, wow, it's not there. That really hits the... Okay, there it is. Next to Burn. Wow, MTG Goldfish hitting right in the feels. That is tough. Yeah, a lot of versions playing Scythecat Cub, which is really cool to see. Obviously something like Ramanap as well. We have Renegade Rallier in that slot. Rexage, Blast from the Past. But at the same time, you know, only need one green to be able to cast it, which is quite nice against the moon decks. Also an ETB. A little bit easier to cast than, say, Night of Autumn. Seatuck always does really well. Whenever I come to MTG Goldfish, I always see their 5-0s in the side, so they're obviously a very capable Maverick player. If not, probably one of the ones that I see the most outside of, say, Achilles or Harry, etc. Which is cool. I don't know. I think with sticking to something, it's nice to just like keep finding out little tricks. And I'm definitely nowhere near the best when it comes to Mav. Maybe one day I'll call myself more than competent. But yeah, I like sticking myself to something and just sinking my teeth into. I find if you jump around too much, you don't sort of get to become that great at any one thing. A Jotmon. Jack of all trades, master of none. That's what I don't want to be. Yes, keep. Now, big question, turn 1 Mum or turn 1 Hierarch? Turn 1 Mum into turn 2 Thalia is pretty old school, which I actually don't mind. Being able to protect Thalia is pretty cool. Canopy's a little bit rough if this is a creature-based matchup and taking the early damage, but otherwise the hand is pretty cool. All right, here we go. Oh, 100%. 100%. I would say that if I could choose a deck that was top performing, maybe Delver would be one to go after, but I definitely don't mind that. I think it's a great challenge to play Mav and to do well with Mav, especially when you think of the tools that other decks have got over the years that Mav just hasn't really been able to keep up with. But yeah, I do enjoy the challenge, don't get me wrong. Okay, so it was a Ponder and Decline to use, so they kept. Force pitching Ponder. Okay. There is a world there you could lead on Teeg if you're really considering Force, but show and tell. Guess we play the Teeg out. Nice. Yikes. Emrakul. All right. Speaking of outclassed, Pyroblast, I really like. Choke, Force of Vigor. That's probably it. Mawloc out, Beast, Endurance. Hey, Evan, very cool to see you. Very cool to watch your content while I was absent. Really enjoy watching it. Like, Ouphe and Teeg do small things. Knight's obviously quite good. Renegade Rallier getting back a bear that they might have tried to get rid of. I could see some number of swords coming out. If they are an intuition, I don't mind the Aven as just a way to interact. So it could be the Scryb. Scryb has small upsides, like keeping a Traxxas off bay, but let's be honest, if they're putting an Attractor into play and getting to look at 10 cards, I don't think Scryb Ranger is going to be the thing that stops them, so I think we'll just see how this unfolds. Like yeah, I don't think it's worth keeping Mawloc for something like a Harbinger of the Seas. I think if I knew it was show and tell, then definitely going turn 1 Noble allows for... No, actually I was going to say Pyroblast on turn 2 with Thalia, but game 1 we don't have access to Pyroblast. That doesn't make sense. But I think potentially now it will be. No blast in the opening is pretty tough, especially when once can't find it. We do have Knight as a 4/4, turn 2 Thalia. At least his hand has a decent plan, and it plays out how I like, so I'm happy to see if we can find maybe a Noble Hierarch here. We can't. We do find a Wasteland. If they know about it though, that's obviously a lot worse, but maybe they can't even play around it, so... what we'll do here is play the Wooded Foothills and probably just go find Lush Portico. 2 to the bottom. Okay. We have time. Lush. It's really Blast that I'm looking for. I also wouldn't mind something like a Force of Vigor or a Night of Autumn or a Green Suns. Okay, we're keeping that on top. Happy to play out the plains. Hold this for either Forest or Red Source. Okay. That buys some time, which is nice. Now I can play out the Night, which means I can hold up the Night of Autumn for show and tell fodder in case it is an Omniscience. And the Thalia will make it harder for them to cast things, which is great as well. So in that case, we'll play the Cradle. Play the Knight, which can't be forced, thankfully. Attack with the Thalia. And then it's definitely interesting if we want to play the Teeg or not. We do have the Knight online to Karakas it back in case we draw into Green Suns or Force of Vigor. Play the Noble. This turn I'll attack for 3. And then potentially the following turn I'll start attacking. Teeg's interesting. They're on mono green. I assume they're on mono blue, but if they're on green blue, then shared summons the Epiphany card out of the board is something to be thinking about as well. There isn't really a Green Suns target here that we really want to grab either, so it doesn't hurt us that much. Brainstorm's fine. There is a small world where I would have played the Wasteland first, and in response to the Brainstorm, Wasteland the Misty, which is very aggressive, but it would put near lethal in play because of the Knight, sack a land, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, they might be forcing this. Okay, so they are green. Okay, pitching a stock up, that's pretty good for us. So I think here, it's just going to be the Windswept pass. And probably even Windswept into land and then into Canopy, draw a card. Uro. Huh. Okay. Interesting. Fetching as well, even though Thalia is out. Pedal. Okay. So let's fetch for Taiga. And then let's get rid of... It's probably the Lush here. Keep the plains just in case they do have some sort of play with Harbinger. Okay. Okay. I'll still hold up the Knight. There is part of me that wants to go after the pedal, but The Uro is most likely coming back this turn, so they go up to 14. And then we're so close then as well. Because we can do something like get Wasteland, Wasteland ourselves, untap, play Wasteland, Wasteland ourselves. Okay. They're at 11. Now it might be hard for them. Because we go fetch, get a, I guess, Dryad up because we don't really want to draw the Arbor. I do want to have a red source in play. Sack the plains. And then currently we have 11 here, which is nice. So I think we actually just get Karakas. Just in case something goes really wrong. Attack with all three. Nice. Okay. Really weird game. That was, yeah. Very odd. Knowing about Uro, I don't think it changes too much. Still have two swords. We still have the blasts as well. Pretty interesting. If they go more mid-range, I kind of just want to play a Minsk. I think that last card doesn't really care too much. I'd love to have a blast in my opener. We don't, but we do have like decent mana. Not really, to be fair. We do have Karakas and an answer to Omniscience. On the draw, it's kind of hard to put this away. What we don't have is a green source or a threat, so I really hope we draw one of them off the top, and then we can use the ones to fund the other. Hey, Martin. Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much. It is... yeah, it's nice to be back. Always nice to take on the challenge that is Legacy. To top. Okay. There's somewhat of a threat. Not a great one. And this is the bit of the issue. In that we don't find a green source. Interesting. Part of me wants to Wasteland them here because it means I don't tap off the Karakas in case they have Island into like Tomb. We probably won't get a great chance to Wasteland again anyway. Hey, True Hero, a huge thank you for the raid. Hope you had a great stream. Let us know what you played. And welcome to all of those from True Hero stream. I'm Dukes on Twitch. We're playing Legacy Maverick against Blue-Green Omnitel in Game 3. Six cards. So we have some options here. We can obviously play the Thalia, tap off the Karakas, and then just hope that double force gets there, which I don't mind. And then potentially if they force this, if we get some sort of leave the battlefield trigger next turn, we can get it back with Renegade Rallier. Okay. Brainstorm's nice because it means their only way to show and tell this turn is either off tomb or land pedal. And if we get to get the Thalia back off the Renegade Rally, that would be a pretty huge win. Wow, double Brainstorm. So they dig one deeper. But hey, if you enjoy Legacy content, I'm coming back to be more consistent. Thursday nights, this time, Sundays. They missed a land drop. Can we find a fetch land? We do. So let's fetch here. The forest doesn't really save us because even if they have a Harbinger, we don't have our Mawlocs anyway. So let's just go for Savannah. Rallier. Now, the thought is if they allow this to resolve, potentially just getting back Thalia is better because it's taxing, but it is, of course, also dealing damage. Okay. So they're currently Brainstorm locked, so they have one more card on top they know about. So we can Lush. We probably don't want that. So we play the Noble here. Next turn we'll have access to 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So 3 mana plus a draw. All right. We will draw first in case we draw into another exalted creature. No. We get to play the Mum. Hold up Swords, hold up a Karakas, hold up Force. But obviously the big number is 3. Really want to try to find a decent threat here. They don't find a fetch line, but they do find a tomb. Sadly, nothing that I have is like an ETB, so I think here we have to go Force Pitch. They have 2 cards left. Intuition. Yeah. Tough. I assume they find Force of Will. Tough. Well, definitely not the start we wanted, but definitely some challenging matchups, which is always nice. But yeah, Deafening Silence, a pretty good card as well against Show and Tell. Just another way to slow them down a little bit, not play on the stack, have something in play that obviously affects the board stay for the rest of the game, which is quite nice. Quite good against the Show and Tell turns as well to make sure they can't do something in response. But yeah, big shout out to Achilles, who took the keeping Lush in hand. Yeah, that's a great point. Keeping the Lush Portico in hand gives us that ETB, but they would be able to intuition in response anyway, which is, yeah, a tricky one. Which typically they intuition for the Sublime card that has multiple modes. It allows you to counter a spell or trigger an ability. Show and tell, a matchup that I don't really have much to board for specifically, but there is obviously cards you can bring in against it that are decent, like the Blasts. Just not really a matchup worth siding with how it typically is head to head. All right. Let's get on the board. And this hand is a pretty good one to do that. Probably happy here to start off on the Taiga bird. But Mum is pretty interesting. I mean, Mum into Thalia also has merit. That I think we will just go Mum Thalia. Because if our plan is to turbo out a questing beast, then a bolt on the Mum's better than a bolt on the bird. Bloodstain Maya. When I think of Bloodstain Maya, I think of Reanimator. Okay. Thoughtseize. I assume it's Thalia here. If it's a reanimate deck, taking the questing beast is kind of cool, but obviously if we draw into a knight or a Karakas, we can return the beast to our hand. Same if they reanimate the Thalia. Okay. At least next turn we'll have 5 mana to be able to play the questing beast around days, which is quite nice. Or even make a giant Mawloc. I hope they're more on sort of a blue-black mid-range deck than a combo deck, because obviously this hand isn't great against stopping that. The Thalia was kind of the main piece. Wasteland. Interesting. That makes me think they have a daze, because they obviously know about the Cradle. So another creature here would be great. And a Thalia is exactly what we want. Not only does it affect the board quite well, seeing they took one with Thalia, it builds out our mana through the Cradle, which is nice as well. Wasteland again on Cradle would be a little bit rough, but again, then we still have a Thalia in play. Mawloc potentially to take out a smaller threat like a Bowmaster or something. Interesting. We're just going to go with Beast. Force. Force thankfully isn't the worst. Oh. Interesting. They were floating mana. Bowmasters is fine. See what they try to hit. Me. Okay. At least the Bowmasters typically means they're not going to be a combo deck. So we're in a pretty great position. Yeah. Tough for them. The blasts, the choke. That's probably pretty much it. The Teeg, the Ouphe, the Night of Autumn. A Knight. A Noble. I think that's pretty much it. Minsk is always interesting, but obviously seeing the Bowmasters makes it less appealing. Three lands, 4 spells. Three lands, 4 spells. Pretty low to the ground as well, which I really like. So pretty happy to keep this. Can go after their mana early on. This is where a plateau is kind of nice because it allows us to go turn 1 Mum, untap, and then play Wasteland and hold up either Pyroblast or Swords. So let's go for Savannah. Savannah Mum. One thing I didn't notice is that for Undercity Sewers, it's like a $50 card now. Pretty insane. A lot of these Surveil lands are now worth quite a pretty penny. But I assume here we're seeing something like Undercity into Bowmaster. Oh. Well, Brainstorm's nice. Brainstorm without Tamiyo as well. Really good. I assume maybe then Fatal Push is going to be the answer for Mum. Fatal Push. There is a world here where actually like going after blue. And then just holding back. We don't really care about Wasteland, which is nice. This Green Suns can be whatever we want it to be. Float a point. And the Wasteland not going after the Taiga is also pretty nice. That's pretty funny. We're going to reset the game. Ooh, okay. You blinked. All right, opponent. I think here we go for Lush end step to try to find a nice threat. A Thalia would actually be really nice here. Ooh, again. Get that Lush. Trigger. That can go in the graveyard. If they really want to reanimate it, we have the Karakas, which is nice. Forest. Okay. Interesting. I think here I'm just going to play Taiga Hold Up Blast in case they go Land Ponder or Brainstorm. I'm pretty happy to go after their cantrips in this stage of the game, especially when we have 2 swords for actual threats. Eight cards. Find a land, but it's a wasteland. Interesting. It looks like they're going to keep it as well. Wow. Ooh, something tricky. You want to see something tricky here? Can get Scryb Ranger. So if they don't respond, then we get to save one of the lands. Oh, they're going to force it. Okay. Kind of makes sense. They're already pretty close to discard. They got rid of a Daze, I believe. I wonder if they wasteland us, which color they go after. No color. Huh. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we'll take that one. We're on the board, ladies and gentlemen. Some people just don't have the grit. It's tough. The Wasteland game isn't for everyone. I didn't have a threat. We were both at 20 life, weren't we? Come on now. You know what? Maybe they just wanted to get rid of that game, start a new one. Makes sense. I can understand that. All right. Look, a 2/3 on return isn't too bad. So we'll see if we can aim for that. It would be really nice to finish on a win. Hopefully a mid-rangey deck. A non-blue deck would be kind of cool, but these days a little bit of a hard ask. Elves. I'd love it to be elves. I wouldn't mind it to be mono red prison. See how this goes. And hey, a huge thank you to all of you for coming in and watching. I really appreciate it, especially those coming from True Hero stream and staying. If you like this sort of content, definitely consider hitting that follow or subscribe button. I believe it's subscribe. Pretty close to 4K. I'd love to hit 4,000 sometime this year. So if you like legacy content, if you like fair content, then yeah, I hope you enjoy this content. Never feel the need to sub. A follow is more than enough. There are some great content creators out there that you should be definitely throwing subs towards. Look at that, my words worked. Avocado. 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 Thank you so much. I hope you're doing well. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, if you have a local scene. If not, what do you play? A bit of an odd one, but I don't mind seeing where it goes. Obviously, the mana isn't great, but turn 1 Mum, turn 2 Scryb Ranger. We can't save the Cradle, but we can see where this goes. Maybe the Endurances get us there. Ooh, Ancient Stirrings. Okay. Cloudpost, which this hand doesn't have a whole lot of game against. There's Planar Nexus. Planar Nexus is a pretty sweet card. So Planar Nexus is every non-basic land type. That includes all Urza lands. So this and an Urza's Tower, the tower taps for 3. This and a Cloudpost taps for 2. Pretty sweet card. Okay. We do have to worry somewhat about crop rotation with this Wasteland, so I kind of hope they go land into something. Just don't let it be Disrupting Flute. Okay. Well, that's good for us. They're tapping off the green source. Pretty cool play next turn. If I want to get this knight into play, I can Endurance Pitch. And I think that's actually what I'm going to do. So let's go Cradle, cast by Evoking. And then triggers on the stack. We're going to tap for 2. And that will allow us. I should have actually targeted myself to get the Wasteland back. But hopefully it won't matter. Nice. That's pretty cool. I think that just getting this knight into play is really needed, especially if there may be a Thought Knot deck. Which obviously the Thought Knot can still take the swords, but I think we're in a decent enough position. Oh, no creature. Wow. Is the Lush worth it? Yeah, I think the Lush is worth it. Talon Gates. I'm going to put that on top and just keep it in the deck. And then just pass to them. Upkeep. I'll play the Scryb. I'm not too scared of anything just yet, like the One Ring potentially. If they have crop One Ring, it's a little bit tough, but maybe I don't even mind if that's the play. We're definitely getting Wasteland. Yeah, I don't mind tapping them off. Bit of a crop rotation check. Oh, they just float 1 mana but don't do anything. I guess it like makes sense to float the mana, but luckily they didn't have a crop. Okay. Ooh. Yikes. Okay. So here we get to attack with both. Attack for 7. Float. Untap. 4 mana. Yeah. Okay. We get to double Wasteland this turn. So we get to go float. Oh, is it just forest? Ah, it's just forest. That shouldn't matter, thankfully. We'll get these. Savannah. Untap this. Return this. Float. Sack this. Get a Wasteland. Wasteland them. More mana. Done. Renegade Rallier. Trigger. Wasteland. Second hit. Nice. And then we have lethal on board. Really tough time for them. Yes, that is a very cool line. That is a, yeah, that's a sweet line. Cloudpost. We like the forces. We like the Aven. Gaddock Teeg does stop command, which is nice. The Ouphe does stop the rings as well. The endurances otherwise aren't great. The mums aren't great either. What if I just want to go out on mums? It might bring in Dismember, but that's probably okay. I could just see like Minsk is kind of cool. They do have access to Karakas, but maybe just one mum. Okay. I mean, to have Force and Wasteland, two pretty good pieces of interaction, mana acceleration, a way to find Night. Pretty happy to keep this. Yeah, maybe the plows I actually don't need. I was thinking of some of their bigger threats, but I think the matchup is just that good typically that there's going to be a few cards in the main deck that we just can't take out because there's not enough cards in the sideboard to bring in. Interesting. I kind of want to just draw one more green card. Okay. Now we have end step Flute. Untap, we have Minsk and Knight. If it's 4 mana, it kind of has to be Ring here. Okay. This is fine. I mean, there's even a world here where we just go for Questing Beast and get in. I honestly don't mind that. There's that Mum. Which is free. Then we have Minsk next turn. I'm not sure what sort of sweepers they have, if any, outside of Colligan's command, or Kozlik's command, I should say. But now they need Karakas for this, which means they probably need a crop rotation. Tough spot. All is dust? Yeah, that is 7 mana, which is a bit tough. Because they need to deal with the board this turn. Glacial Chasm, potentially? No, Glacial Chasm doesn't do it either because of Questing Beast. Too much text. It could be potentially in attack phase, crop for Karakas, return, crop for Glacial Chasm, or play Chasm and then... But then you've got a sack another land, you're going behind in lands. Really tough spot. Planar Nexus, sure. It's tricky because they're going to take at least one from the ring, so they're at 7. Even if we lost the Questing Beast, we could Wasteland ourselves and get it Exalted, which is 6 with the Knight. So if we draw a fetch land, it's lethal through the Night. Bridge doesn't do it because that's 4 cards still in hand. There's Crop. I mean, then we just have Minsk Throw. So, yeah, tough. Just don't crack us right now. This has haste. Yeah, we have multiple lines here. We could also Force of Vigor right now on the Disruptive Flute, untap, and then Wasteland the Karakas, replay the Beast and attack. I think we just... yeah. We can do a lot of things here. So let's go for... Could fling post damage. Could make the token. I think making the token is the funnest line. So we'll go with make the token. But... oh, maybe another flute? Okay. Interesting. Which unfortunately for them is we still have mana with the knight. 1, 2, 1 floating. So I assume this comes down to names. Wow, I think we get there with the 1/1 token attacking with Exalted. Yeah, that's crazy. Get the token. 1, 2. Sack this. They're at 6. Get a fetch land, fetch. Get a Savannah. Force these 2. Attack with these 2. They take 2, go to 4, and then we just fling the knight. I think sadly it was just a kind of a check. That's fine. Cool. Yeah. I guess we could also just attack with Exalted, hold back the mum in case of some sort of dismember effect. Yeah. Nice. Very cool. A lot of a lot of ways to win that last match. Well, we finish it off on a high, which is nice. Deck was sweet. I think I would really like another red source in the deck, but I won't fault Achilles. Yeah, obviously results with the deck, but I think I'm typically a little bit more. I don't like to be too risky with my mana, but I can definitely see where a card like Plateau, not tapping for green, can be a little bit awkward in the deck. Especially when you're probably going to have more fetches. Like maybe the Verdant Catacombs is where you put the Plateau and you keep everything else the same. You keep the same amount of targets. But yeah, generally the red splash felt like Mawloc felt pretty good to know, just to have it as a Green Sun's target. It traded with a few creatures today. It also just exiled and then stayed around, which was nice. Full Blast is great, but you got to see them as well. So I can definitely see why Mark Strasteady goes up to 6 to nearly 8 with red Elemental Blast as well, just to make sure you're seeing them in the matchups where you want them. The Minsks were great. Like, as someone who loves Sylvan Library, I could definitely see Minsk in the main board as like a one of, just to know you have it there, and then have one on the side for the matchups where you want to bring in or have both. But yeah, like I feel like Mum did a little work as well. Either taking a Fatal Push or a Bolt, or being able to protect as well was really nice. Night of Autumn didn't come up too much, but Outland Liberator wouldn't have come up that much either. Overall, had a lot of fun, and that's what I'm all about. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'll be back this weekend sometime. It's a long weekend for us, which is cool. So maybe even multiple streams, maybe one Abzan, maybe one Depths. So we'll see how that goes. But a huge thank you to all of you for coming and watching. A big thank you to the new followers as well. I always appreciate that. If you want to find me, you can find me on YouTube with Dukes on Twitch. You can also find me on Twitter. Here's my Discord. I hope you all have a great week ahead. I'm going to see who else is streaming and potentially if I can send you over their way. But yeah, thank you very much. PT Bench is playing some standard. PT Bench is always a pretty big fan of the channel, so I do like to pass back the love. So if you could go and just say hey, even if you're not going to watch, just say hey in chat, and I'd really appreciate that. All right, I'm out. Catch you next time. Thank you, Achilles, for the list. We'll see you soon.